welcome to Smeg and the Femmes, a podcast to discuss Red Dwarf from a different perspective. Generally, today I'll be talking about Series 3, Episode 2, Marooned. With the help of my guest, Judus Rimmer.
Hello, I'm back again.
Yes. Okay, well, this is obviously a very different episode from the one we just discussed. It's almost entirely the Lister and Rimmer show.
Which, is anyone really complaining?
Nope, definitely not. I mean, I love the other characters, but the Lister and Rimmer dynamic is wonderful. Although I will just quickly say that Holly does get a few good lines about regarding black holes.
Oh, definitely. How are you supposed to see them, though? I agree with her.
I haven't transposed. They weren't black holes. They were grit.
Yeah. So the problem with grit,
it's just so classically Holly.
Yeah, it's a glorious line, and I'm pretty sure it's one of her most quoted lines as well.
Yeah, she doesn't get as many quotable lines as Norman, unfortunately, but her performance is wonderful. So Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we respect female Holly.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
I don't know whether you know. I mean, maybe you already know this, but did you notice that at the very end of the episode, after the credits, there's an extra shot of Starbug in the snow?
Yes, I always wondered about that. Like, what? Why?
Yeah. Well, I'm about to explain, because it wasn't on the original VHS release of the episode. Basically, what happened is when Marooned was originally released on VHS in the early 90s, the 12 rating did not exist.
Yes.
So it had to be rated either PG or 15. There was nothing in between. And it ended up being rated 15 just for this episode. And the reason for that was the line where Lister says he lost his virginity at the age of 12.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it had to be rated 15 originally because of that. And then when they were bringing out the DVDs in the early noughties, they wanted them all to be rated sort of 12 across the board. So, and fortunately for them, by this time, the 12 rating had been introduced. But the problem was, in order to get it reclassified as a 12, they had to resubmit the episode with new material. So they added that.
So they literally just pinned on a picture of Starbucks.
Added that.
I love that.
And that was
my god, that's amazing.
Get it reclassified as a 12.
That is glorious. I love that. That's like me when I edit my YouTube videos and I get copyrighted again. I'm just like, well, I'll take out 2 seconds and that'll do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So I think what I might do maybe is dive into the controversial aspect of this episode and get it out of the way, and then we can get to the stuff that the lovely character stuff that we enjoy.
Are we on about Lolita by any chance?
We are, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, I assume you know what Lolita was about,
Yes, very much so. See, the thing I get from this scene is basically, I don't think Lister would really know what the story as a whole is about.
Yeah, because I did wonder actually. Because obviously it's Rimmer's book. Lister has obviously never read it. He just had a quick look at a particular scene, which is obviously food.
Yes.
It's actually clear from that scene that we're talking about a paedophile abusing a child. I'm not sure it is.
Yeah. See, I read it once and I was just like, how can anybody enjoy the book? If you know what I mean. Like, I get it from a commentary perspective, from like making commentary on stuff that actually happens in the world and stuff like that, because I'll read fan fictions about stuff like that and stories and stuff, but the fact that Rimmer knows the page by number without even looking is a little bit strange to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I'm going to try to do is put this in context, and and why when I say that, I mean I don't mean that I'm trying to excuse it. I do think Rob and Doug made a really bad choice. I mean, they should have picked a different book that wasn't about paedophilia, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to try and put it in context, which is I think they were they were classified in the same sort of area as a book like Lady Chatterley's Lover, a famously dirty book, and they were both actually briefly banned in the UK, and then there had to be court cases so that they could be legally published. And I think they're just basically putting these two books in the same category. But the thing is, why didn't they just use Lady Chatterley's Lover and have done with it?
Yeah. Well, I did write down that even though it is Rimmer's book and he knows the exact page, I did put it's either one that he reads a lot, which, yes, creepy and a bit strange, or it's one he picked up as a kid and didn't remember much of the rest of the plot other than the juicy page. So I don't know if that's something that could excuse, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically, this isn't just me pulling this out off the top of my head. This is me going by having watched a lockdown commentary in which Rob Grant and Paul Jackson and Ed By did some commentaries on the earlier episodes, and they actually addressed this directly. And it was quite obvious that, fortunately, Rob did not see what the problem was. He basically just saw it as a dirty book, like any other dirty book.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. But basically, how do I put this? There's no delicate way of putting this. I think it was one of the books that Rob possibly and or Doug, as teenagers, used to read for. How do I put this? Masturbation material.
And a little bit of pornography.
I mean, the thing is, in those days, pornography was not widely available, So basically, people took anything they could get, and they were a lot less discriminating about what it actually was,
Yeah.
And
that
again,
makes sense.
I'm not trying to excuse him, especially since it was very recently that Rob talked about this, and he should have realised in the interim, but clearly hadn't, But I'm just trying to put it in context as to why it would have got on screen in the first place, and to why it didn't seem to occur to them that it was a bad thing, maybe implying that maybe their two lead characters might be paedophiles. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if he'd have admitted to it being wrong now, but I can see why at the time maybe it seemed okay.
Obviously, that was only Rob. I mean, I don't know how Doug feels about it. He may have had a revelation in the interim or not. To me, I honestly don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, it is one of those things which you really can tell. You really can tell that this episode was made quite a long time ago, because they would never have got away with it today. I don't think.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
There would have been a storm on Twitter.
Cancel Red Dwarf. It's over.
That's the ironic thing, of course. I mean, Doug is clearly very, very aware of cancel culture, because he kind of took a swipe at it in Time Wave.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to watch these commentaries.
I mean, Time Wave is a bad episode, but well, whatever.
Yeah.
However, let's get back to the nicer aspects of this episode, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to get that out of the way, actually, but basically.
Yeah, get the bad stuff out first. Save the best till last.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, yeah. So Rimmer's kind of military obsession. a working title for this episode before they settled on Marooned was actually Men of Honour. Of course, he refers to generals as men of honour, and
Yeah.
Lister says, you make war sound romantic, and the thing is, Rimmer obviously does think war is romantic, or at least if you're a general,
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting and, I don't know, almost an important point for Lister to make about Rimmer. I don't know if it's maybe because he's never been in love, he's never really been with women that much and fallen in love with anyone, so he romanticizes things that he was raised to think are great and wonderful and all that stuff, such as war, because his family is from a military background, basically.
Hmm. I mean, obviously, it's Lister actually says, it's because you lead a boring, humdrum existence. You want exciting stuff, and I can understand that to some extent because obviously, Rimmer's got absolutely no clue what war is actually like, and he's living in the distant future and is never going to find out. So you can kind of understand why he would romanticize it, I guess. Plus, obviously, his upbringing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, mind you, that Rimmer says he admires leadership because over the course of the series, who is a character who basically develops into the leader of the crew? It's Lister.
Yeah.
It's never sort of confirmed in the show because Lister isn't the kind of person who marched around saying, "I am a leader. You will do what I say." It just kind of.
But they make the best leaders. Like I've found that. Like in my friendship group, for example, I'm the one that organises everything because nobody else has the wherewithal to actually like get everyone together at a certain time and all that stuff. So I've always been the organiser of the friendship group.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, fearless leader. And I'm like, what? I don't think I'm a leader. I'm organised. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's definitely true. I definitely think the reason Lister makes a good leader is because he doesn't really want to be a leader, and he wouldn't think of himself as one, but he steps up when it's necessary.
yeah, like the whole cat people
Of
debacle.
course, yeah. He could tell, that they needed, a leader. They needed help against Rodon, so he stepped up.
Yeah. But he's never actually wanted it, which obviously in the first series, when he first finds out about the cat people having the war and everything, he just says, "I don't want to be a god. I don't want this." And obviously Rimmer's like, "Well, I do." So
Exactly. Yeah. It really shows how different they are. Because Rimmer thinks he wants to be a leader, but to be honest, Rimmer wants to be a follower. It's obvious from Siliconia.
yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. That's the thing
You
with
you can't
families
admit it.
drilling stuff into your brain. It's
Yeah, it's just he can't admit it, because he's been brought up to think he's supposed to be a leader, etc., etc. He just cannot admit it to himself.
I think that's why it's good that he found out in the later series that his dad wasn't his dad, because then there's no pressure there. And he actually makes it as a leader in that episode and saves them all from what's going on. So it's just like, without the pressure from his family, I think he could have actually made it quite far, but I don't think he would have got into the field that his family wanted him to.
Exactly. Oh, I definitely think. Basically, I think if he'd had a less shitty family, he would either have gone into theatre or might have become an artist or something.
Yeah, definitely something along those lines.
Yeah, it's a real shame because he's. Obviously he did get the character development in the beginning, but it didn't really stick because it can't stick because if he gets over his problems, then he's not funny anymore. So Doug has to sort of regress him a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Rimmer thinks he has lived a past life as Alexander the Great's chief eunuch.
Ah, yes, the eunuch thing. It's hard to know where to
funny.
start with that one, isn't it? um, Well, when I was looking into it, because I knew what a eunuch was, but I was like, I'll do a little bit more research just to know that I know what I'm talking about. And it was usually seen as someone of unimportance, which, I mean, isn't that just Rimmer through and through, really, as a character? Like, everyone sees him as unimportant and everything.
Fortunately, yeah. Obviously, the big thing about eunuchs is obviously they're not, they've been castrated and they're not.
Yes. Which is why the ending line of "we're going to go do to Lister what Alexander the Great once did to me" is just amazing. Like,
I mean, that
chef's
was
kiss.
perfect.
Love that line.
When they bring it in for another earlier in the episode. Yeah, it's a great ending. Yeah, I have to
I
say
do
though.
find it weird that sorry.
Sorry, I was just
Did
going to
I
say, is Rimmer? Well, I don't see. I mean, given how obsessed Rimmer is with military figures, really he
Yes.
can't be unaware that Alexander the Great is historically agreed to have been either gay or bisexual.
I feel like with like manly men, like, oh, I'm gonna go work on the construction site and then drink a beer. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know many men, but that kind of people. If people look up to those sort of people, they tend to just ignore that side of it. They're like, nah, they weren't. That's just speculation. Like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since he lived such a long time ago, nobody can actually know for sure. But from the historical records, it does seem pretty obvious. Because I mean,
yeah.
I mean, people. I mean, how do I put this? I mean, people don't say, for instance, that Julius Caesar was gay. So I mean, there must be a reason for it. I mean,
Everyone was gay around that time. It's fine.
to some extent, yeah.
The thing I did find odd was how Rimmer actually seems to believe in the aromatherapy stuff.
You mean hypnotherapy? Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. I find that very hard to believe that, one, he went to a hypnotherapist, because a dude needs therapy. Are we supposed to believe that he's actually been? Or and also that he actually believed in it, or whether that's just because of the connection to the war stuff that he believes it. And if it was something not to do with that, he wouldn't believe it.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I guess the hypnotherapist Donald, he was probably telling him what it was obvious he wanted to hear. I imagine.
Yeah, definitely, because he just mentioned that he told the guy about it beforehand, so it's probably one of those scams, like.
Yeah, I imagine. It was probably a question of I mean, he said he got friendly with a hypnotherapist called Donald. So presumably, so he must have mentioned all this military stuff to him. And Donald said, well, maybe you lived a past life. Let me put you under for a certain amount of money, and then I'll tell you if you did.
Yeah, then I'm moving to Bulgaria. I'll see you later, mate.
I mean, fair enough. Because Donald got money out of it, and Rimmer got to feel good about himself. So nobody lost really.
Well, true.
Also, the reference Lister makes to the fact that they went on planet leave on Miranda and Rimmer started a fight. The interesting aspect of that is, it's kind of odd that they will be voluntarily hanging out together when they don't have to before the accident.
No, I literally wrote that down as well. I was like, they're supposed to like be enemies, right? So why are they going on shore leave together? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
if the characters really hated each other as much as they make us think in the first episode, before the crew of the Red Dwarf got wiped out, then why would that be a thing? Why would they decide to go on shore leave together?
I mean, I guess probably out of universe. Rob and Doug just thought it being an amusing story and weren't bothered about continuity. But in universe, I mean, it is odd. I mean, I guess you could say maybe they weren't hanging out together. Maybe they just happened to walk into the same pub, and Lister felt like he had to stand up for Rimmer because he's a decent person. Even though he doesn't like him. But I don't know. You can make it make sense.
Yeah.
If you try hard, I guess.
It does remind me, though, go back to the last episode, it does remind me of the bar fight in that, like, Rimmer running, hiding, not wanting to be a part of it, even though he started it. I mean, I can relate with running my mouth and saying the wrong thing, and then realizing afterwards and be like, "Oh shit, I should not have said that." Like,
Yeah, Rimmer, I mean, the theory has been advanced before that the reason Rimmer can't get promoted is simply because he just can't keep his mouth shut.
yeah, I don't know. I just find it so funny, personally, that he's the one that started a fight by saying a rumor right to the guy's face that he likes to fuck dead people. Like, only Rimmer would be that courageous and that stupid at the same time. Just
yeah, I mean, it really is very, 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 very Rimmer.
He does have a point about generals not being on the front lines, though. I will give him that.
He is right, yeah. I mean, the way it makes it sound romantic. They're in a white tent on the hill, sipping chilled Sancerre. Making it sound like a holiday almost. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he is right in a way. I mean, but the reason he just overlooking the fact, that obviously on the front line, men are fighting and dying. Because he just doesn't want to think about that part of it.
Yeah, I think it might be similar to, like, obviously before World War One, there was never a war. So when World War One first happened, everyone was like almost romanticising it. Oh, go to war, it'd be great. We get to battle with our buddies and all that stuff. And obviously all the horrible things happen. Maybe it's like the opposite. Like, it's been so long since the World Wars that they've got no clue what an actual war was like. So it's the same sort of thing, and that's where the romanticising comes into it.
Now you mention it, that's a very good point. Yes, I mean, even the Second World War nowadays people tend to romanticize it. Romanticize it. I have noticed. They romanticize about how it was a time when everybody pulled together. And
Yeah.
etc. etc. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
it wasn't. But they tend. I mean, they tend to sort of overlook the obviously the fact that that wasn't all there was to it. I mean, it was a terrible war in which many people died. I mean,
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like, oh, it was simpler times, and it's like, you're saying all the good stuff. You're not saying all the bad bits. Like,
I mean,
and it's a similar sort of thing here with the way Rimmer talks about war throughout the series. Like,
it's kind of
I don't know, I've never got the whole war obsession. Like,
yeah,
not my sort of thing.
It's kind of human nature. The further something retreats into the past, the more likely people are to remember it with sort of rose tinted memories.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I play Warhammer and stuff like that, and that's fun, but and so I get the love of, like, figurines and stuff like that and playing with those, but I've never been one to obsess or talk that much with my mates when they're talking about war and stuff and generals and Alexander the Great and all that stuff. Like, I do wonder whether his obsession, though, might come or stem at least from his family being religious, because that seems to be a big thing that I've seen throughout the world with religion. Almost seems to go hand in hand with romanticizing war and that sort of stuff.
It's true to some extent, yeah, because I mean, obviously, a lot of wars are sort of fueled by religion. I mean, obviously some more directly than others, But I mean, there's always a sort of underlying implication of we want to protect our way of life, and obviously implicitly that often includes religion.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on to the contrasting virginity stories. One thing I did mean to say earlier that it did occur to me that maybe, I mean, if we're assuming that Lister does know what Lolita is about and that Lolita is actually a 12-year-old girl, maybe it might explain not being shocked because he lost his own virginity age 12.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Oh my god. I love that connection. Okay. No, I like that. That does explain a lot. That, like, honestly though, like, I just find it so weird that I mean, it's Lister through and through, but at the same time, I just find it really weird.
Yeah, I mean, you mean the fact that he would have sex at age 12?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
it is weird. I mean, obviously, it's. I mean, Rimmer's reaction. I mean, he does react as though it's weird. I mean, he is clearly genuinely shocked and gobsmacked. I mean, it's not being played as normal in the episode itself. I mean, they are playing for comedy and shock value. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of odd. I mean, I have seen theories which make me kind of uncomfortable, which is maybe Michelle Fisher was a bit older and kind of took advantage, but...
No, I did write that down. I hope she was underage too, at least that way she's not a felon.
I mean, I assume she was at least underage. I mean, maybe a bit older, say 14 or whatever, which is...
Yeah, as long as they were both underage, which still should not be happening, but as long as they were both underage rather than one over one that much younger, like...
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is basically, I mean, the thing about underage sex is it happens. It shouldn't happen, but it does happen. But I mean, it's a lot less worrisome when it's between underage people, obviously,
Yeah, from what we know of Lister's character and his upbringing and all that stuff, it's not a surprising thing. And in his education and everything, like, it tends to happen a lot when you're in an area where there's no sex ed program at the school and stuff like that sort of thing. So it's understandable for his character, but at the same time, it is very shocking when you first see it. And you're just like, whoa, hang on a minute, like, that's a bit strange, like...
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it does, yeah. I mean, I agree, I really do. I mean, it does absolutely make sense for Lister's character, and to be fair to the episode briefly, I mean, it's clearly not presenting it as normal, I mean, I mean, it's presenting it. I mean, Rimmer is clearly shocked, and then of course it plays it for comedy as well. With of course, he's more shocked. What, you can't have been a full member of the golf?
Because of course that's what Rimmer focuses on.
Of course he would, you did it on the golf course, you weren't a member.
I don't think the golf course side of it is too weird. Like, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people do stuff in public and outdoor places and stuff. I don't think it's too weird.
I mean,
it's the age thing.
It was just, somewhere to go.
Yeah.
It's just so very, very Rimmer to sort of focusing on that, on where he had sex rather than the fact that he had sex. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. So with Rimmer's side of it, though, with like just focusing on the car, like, it just says so much about his character. Like,
it really does. Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, you could read that as him being gay. You could also read it as him being asexual. It works either way.
I literally wrote down so many notes about that. Because a lot of people I know tend to believe that Rimmer is asexual just because of the way he acts, like, around women, and we see him want to be with women, but it's almost like an obligation, if that makes sense. Like, especially in later series, it's something he's never really that bothered about until a woman pops up, and then he's like, "Oh, yes, a woman. I should flirt. I should try." Like,
yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, that works perfectly for either him being gay or him being asexual. You can read it either way.
Yeah, I do think it's a really interesting idea that he's either Arrow or Ace. Ace Rimmer. Hey.
Ace Rimmer.
Like, it's just very rare. It's just a very rare occurrence that he actually gives a shit about being with a woman. Like, and that's why I do like the theory that he's gay or he's ace and stuff like that. Like, I do appreciate that theory.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, he clearly thinks, that he's supposed to want women, and he sort of goes through the motions if there's a woman around, but I mean, it's all. He clearly he just doesn't have a clue, just sort of going through the motions.
Yeah, especially when we see how he is with his parallel universe self. That's like
I mean,
because he sees how he's been with women,
well,
and it's
kind of odd. I mean, whether she is supposed. I mean, I know she's supposed to be him, but I mean, you could also read it as her being his exact opposite because she's so sexually aggressive. Whereas we never really see him be sexually aggressive. I mean, I'm trying to think of an instance, and we don't really. I mean, well, of course there is Series 8, which I don't want to get into much, but I mean, even then with the sexual magnetism virus, he isn't coming on to people. He's waiting for them to come on to him. Do you see what I mean?
yeah. That's me. I've never seen that much of a correlation between the female Rimmer and the male Rimmer. Like I've never really gotten that. I didn't really enjoy her as a character, if I'm being honest. Whereas
Yeah,
Rimmer
well, I mean,
is my favourite character, so
obviously, I mean, she is very much intended to be unlikable. She's supposed to, reflect Rimmer's worst qualities back at him. So I mean,
yeah.
it is kind of difficult to like her because she's designed to be unlikable. I do enjoy the episode a lot, though. It's fascinating.
Oh, definitely. I anything to do with parallel universes is just chef's kiss to me. Like,
Exactly, yes. Okay, so I mean, still on the topic of Rimmer's virginity story. I mean, you can
mhm.
tell. I mean, way he takes way too long to answer. I mean, it's the episode doesn't make it obvious, but if you've read the book, it's obvious because he's actually stalling because he's thinking of a story to make up.
Yeah. See, I did wonder about it because obviously you have the episode in I think it's series 2 where Lister gives him one of his old girlfriends
Hmm.
because he says that he's only ever been with one woman and it's the one from the ship and all that stuff, and it
Yeah.
just there's been a lot of continuity issues with Red Dwarf. Don't get me wrong, we all know it, but we all love it anyway.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I always thought it was just a random continuity thing, but
Kind of.
no, that makes more
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, obviously, if you only watch the episode, it is a continuity error. But in one of the books, they adapt part of Marooned, not all of it. And from Rimmer's inner thoughts, it's obvious that he's exaggerating. I mean, he got off with this girl, but he didn't actually have sex with her, so he's just exaggerating.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes more sense. I'm definitely gonna have to find some time, put some time to one side just to read the books because I've been meaning to for so long now, and
I mean
I've
that
not managed to
that
get
one
around
isn't the
to it.
backwards book. That's I think that's the first book. I mean they do adapt a lot of the actual episodes. And
Yeah,
in some cases they expand upon them a lot. Out of all recognition. I mean, the Better Than Life TV episode becomes an entire book, which bears virtually no resemblance to the episode at all. It
yeah.
spirals off into fantasy land. Basically.
The first one, Space welcomes careful drivers, right?
Yeah, the first book is Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sort of towards the end of that book, they go into the Better Than Life game, and at the end of that book, they're actually stuck in it. And then in the next book, it's called Better Than Life, and it's about them getting out of it, but they
Right. Okay.
they take their time to get out of it, basically, because Rimmer is a billionaire, and obviously wants to carry on being a billionaire.
Yeah.
If you like Rimmer character stuff, Better Than Life in particular has so much. You learn so much about her, so much about his subconscious. I mean, most of it bad, admittedly, but yeah, I mean, it's fascinating.
But it's like the Moon episode. Like I love that episode, even though it's like all about the bad stuff going on in Rimmer's head. I find it fascinating. I feel like a psychologist, just like wandering in, like, oh, this place is janky. Jesus.
I mean, it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, Terraform. It's a wonderful episode. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so moving on, because we do have a bit more to cover. Basically, I suppose what I'm going to call the selfishness debate. I mean, basically,
Yes.
Lister behaves. Lister does undeniably. I mean, Lister is my favourite character. I mean, but I freely admit he does behave badly in this episode. But on the other hand, he does have reasons for it.
See, as having Rimmer as my favourite,
I
favourite
know.
character, this is going to be a very fun debate. I mean,
Yeah.
the way I see it, even if Lister is dying, I don't think it's an excuse. Because Rimmer had already burned his money, his books, which meant a lot to him. He'd been saving that money for ages. And the chest was the one last thing he had as an important item since he offered to burn the soldiers after he thinks Lister's burnt his guitar. And Lister didn't sacrifice anything. And in the end, when Rimmer actually believes he finally did what's right and give up his guitar, it turns out Lister had lied to him. And they're back down to square one with all the character building they've had and all that. Like, back to square one. Because Lister just walks in and picks up his guitar and walks out again.
I mean, in fairness, I mean, you can see Craig from Craig's acting, that Lister does feel terrible about it. I mean, as it dawns on him what he's actually done. I mean, he clearly feels guiltier and guiltier.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, there's the bit where Lister almost tells him, and then the others arrive and all that stuff.
He was about to confess, but then of course, Cat and Craig.
Yeah, but at that point, I feel like the guilt sets in even more, because if you notice, instead of Rimmer actually calling him Lister like he usually does, he calls him Dave.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. Yeah, I mean, that is so interesting. The way, I mean, he never calls him Dave. I mean, even when he's using nicknames, he usually calls him Lister rather than Dave. I mean, that's such an interesting choice. Yeah, I mean, obviously it is bad. I mean, however, I mean, I'm just I guess this is probably me playing devil's advocate for want of a better word. If we reverse the roles, I mean, if it had been Rimmer in danger of freezing or starving to death, I mean, he wouldn't have behaved any better than Lister. Let's face it.
Oh no, I completely agree with that. If anything, Rimmer probably would have been worse in that situation.
I really do think so. Yes, I mean, but I mean, obviously,
I think the worst thing about it is obviously Rimmer, as he says in the episode, upholds men of honor, and he sees Lister as a man of honor now. And we all know how much he regards that stuff. So to have what primarily he is starting to call him by his first name, he's admitted to him that he regards him as like he was wrong about him this whole time, all that stuff. And then the way that Lister just walks through and just grabs the guitar and walks back off is just, oh my god, like
he looks so sheepish and guilty. I mean, he should, but to me, it's it is.
It's just, I don't know if it's, to me, just because it was such an honourable thing that Rimmer saw Lister do, for that to be taken away, as well as all the progress they've made on opening up to each other and treating each other how they think they deserve to be treated and all that stuff, is just taken away and made even worse because the honour's been taken away as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it is obviously. It's very sad. It's definitely a shame because generally, usually, maybe this is me being a Lister stan, but I mean, generally, Lister is an honourable person. He is usually decent. I mean, this is one of his worst episodes in that respect.
Yeah,
and it's just so,
he does have. Yeah. He has a very good moral compass usually.
It's just so ironic that it happens in this particular episode when they briefly make a breakthrough and then it gets ruined. Obviously, it kind of has to because the show that's how the show works. I mean, if they liked each other and respected and got on, it wouldn't be funny. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is obvious how well they know each other though. Like, for example, Lister, without even looking at Rimmer, goes, "Take that look off your face," when he's about to eat the dog food. He doesn't even have to look at him, he knows.
He's not even looking at it. He can feel the disapproval.
I do want to also say I went to art college too, so Lister, I feel you on that one.
Oh yes. I love the fact that Lister went to art college. I mean, the costume designer did say that was part of the reason why he sort of customised his jacket, because it's supposed to be in universe that Lister's customised himself.
Yeah. No, I love that, honestly. And it, like we said in the last one, it does suit it so well. Like all that attire suits Craig to a T, and is just Lister's character through and through. Like
the leather just suits him so well. Oh yeah. Let me see. We're at 40 minutes, so we'll need to start wrapping up. I did want to point out one more thing, which is it's interesting that both of them cling to objects which remind them of their father figures. I mean, with Rimmer, it's a chest, and Lister says that his stepdad taught him to play the song that he plays on it. She's out of my life, you know.
Yeah, which I is a good juxtaposition between the two characters, honestly. Like, because Lister loved his stepdad and Rimmer hated his father, but the one object he's ever gotten from his father, he holds it so tight, and it's probably because he never thought he would. He never thought he could get an object given to him by his family that don't like him, like that sort of thing.
It's kind of odd, given everything we know about Rimmer's father, that he actually gave him that in the first place. I mean, and that nice-looking chest.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, that is something that's always confused me, though. Like, the only other thing we ever see him give him is the hollow message saying, "I'm not your father." Yeah. Like,
I mean, you know, which of course does kind of retroactively make a continuity problem, but well, whatever.
Yes.
I mean, you know, this is Red Dwarf. We have continuity problems coming out of our ears. Oh, one more thing I did want to say at the end when Cat and Crichton come in. It's very brief. It's not really focused on. Rimmer actually does genuinely smile when he realises that they're saved. It's over.
Yeah. No, I find it adorable, honestly. Like, actually seeing him smile, which is... I don't think we ever genuinely see him smile a lot on the show.
It's very, very, very rare. I mean, a genuine smile as opposed to a smirk, you know, but it is a genuine smile.
Yeah. No, it's really nice. Oh, I've got one last point, though. What is wrong with pot noodles?
I don't know. I mean, admittedly, I don't feel I've ever actually had one. But I mean, as I understand it, you know, it's just, well, noodles in a pot. I mean, how bad can they be?
Yeah. Oh, they're delicious, honestly. I've never gotten this whole hatred of pot noodles.
I think probably what it was, when Rob and Doug were struggling writers, students, whatever, they probably had to live on them, and they got sick of them.
Yeah, probably. To be fair, you have too many of one thing and it's just, nope.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so was there anything else any more points you particularly wanted to make?
I've got another point that might mess with people's heads a little bit, because I'm apparently good at that. The fact that Lister doesn't even seem to think about the fact that if he does die, like he keeps saying he's going to, and keeps saying, "Oh, but Rimmer, you'll still live," and all this stuff. He doesn't seem to think about the fact that if the others don't manage to find them, Rimmer is basically trapped there forever.
That is true. I mean, now you mention it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the fact that they did find them probably means that they would have found him eventually. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, now you mention it. I mean, I had a bit fortunate like that. Yeah, because I mean, this is before the stage of the show where Rimmer has a light beam, so he wouldn't actually be able to turn himself off. He'd just be kind of stuck there and not even able to touch anything. So he wouldn't even be able to read the books or anything. God, that would be a bad experience. Yeah, I know burnt by then, but you know what I mean. He wouldn't be able to do anything, you know.
He'd just be sat there for all eternity, which, wow.
Oh, that would drive me.
But he still tries to help.
Oh dear.
Yeah. He still tries to help Lister, though. Like, it's not something you really think about until you rewatch it, but he does try to help him. He tries to keep his mind off the hunger. He tries to distract him. He lets Lister talk about whatever he wants to talk about, like the virginity scenes and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like, he is trying to help in his own rimmery way.
Yeah, he is trying, in in the, as you say, in his sort of own clumsy sort of Rimmer-esque way.
Yeah.
He does try to Right. Okay. So we do need to wrap up, but of course, before we do that, I would like your scores out of 10 for both for slashiness and for overall.
So for overall, I'd probably say 8 out of 10. Like, I prefer this episode to the last one. I like the characters getting closer together, even if it is just back to square one at the end. Like,
Mhm.
I appreciate all the scenes with Rimmer and Lister actually bonding rather than just being snide and sarcastic towards each other.
Agreed.
For slashiness, I'd probably say 8 out of 10 again. Like, there is a lot of instances of fan fiction that have come from this particular episode, and it seems to be a fan favourite with the slashiness between the two characters.
I agree. I mean, it's kind of one of the sort of tropes. I mean, a fanfic trope. Sort of trap two characters together. And see what happens. So I mean, yeah, it is a very slashy episode with all sort of interactions. And then sitting around talking about personal things. So I'm also going to give it 8 out of 10 for slashiness, and I think overall I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. I would give it 10 out of 10, but the Lolita stuff just makes me uncomfortable, so I think I'm going to have to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is just a very questionable part of it. Even if it's just a tiny, like, 3-sentence thing, it's just, oh, you're going there, Red Dwarf. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that may be the wrong way of putting it, but I mean, it is by no means the only time that they delve into the topic of underage sex, but I mean, we probably
Yeah.
get there. Actually, this series in particular, to be honest, has a lot of references to it. But well, I'll get onto that later in the series.
Yes.
For now, it's time to wrap up. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Smeg and the Femmes. Thank you to Hologomet for technical help, and also thanks very much to my guest Judus Rimmer.
It was very much fun. Feel free to get me back again.
We'll see. We'll see. I will work on my schedule. Anyway, right. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you'd like to give us feedback, you can do so on either Tumblr or Discord. The posts where I shall link to this episode. You can also email us at smegandthefemmes@gmail.com. And the next episode we'll be covering will be Polymorph. Hope you'll join us then, but for now, goodbye.